It was a chilly evening, the kind where the city buzzes with hurried footsteps and gleaming headlights. Among the crowd stood a young girl, her tattered clothes and weary eyes blending into the background of a world too busy to notice. But tonight, she wouldn't go unnoticed. As a sleek black car idled at the curb, the girl's voice cut through the hum of traffic. "Don't drive," she shouted, her words trembling with urgency. Passers-by slowed, puzzled by the commotion, while the car's window rolled down just enough to reveal an elegant figure inside, Melania Trump. At first, the girl's cry seemed like another desperate attempt for attention, but something in her tone made everyone pause. Melania, curious yet composed, signaled her driver to stay put. What could a young beggar possibly know about the dangers ahead? Then, as a crowd began to gather, whispers turned to murmurs. Someone suggested checking the vehicle. The driver hesitated but relented under Melania's steady gaze. What they found would leave everyone breathless, their assumptions shattered, and the evening forever etched in their minds. What was hidden in the car? And how did this girl know? Stay with us as the story takes an unexpected turn. The driver stepped out, his hesitation clear as he glanced at the girl who stood trembling on the sidewalk. Her small frame shook, but her eyes never wavered from the car. "Please just check," she whispered, her voice cracking but firm. Melania sat still, her expression unreadable. Yet something about the girl's desperation seemed to pierce through the polished calm she was known for. People around murmured in confusion, some filming on their phones, others watching in silent curiosity. The driver finally opened the trunk. At first, everything seemed normal. Luggage neatly packed, nothing unusual. But as he moved a bag aside, his face suddenly changed. His hand froze midair, and his eyes widened. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low and strained, "you might want to step out." Melania's gaze shifted between the girl and her driver. Slowly, she opened the door and stepped onto the pavement. The crowd, now growing larger, held its collective breath. The girl took a small step back, fear flickering in her eyes, as if she knew what was coming. Melania approached the trunk cautiously, her heart racing. What had been found? And how could this young girl possibly have known? The mystery was only deepening. The air felt heavier as Melania peered into the open trunk. For a moment, she didn't move, her eyes fixed on what lay beneath the luggage. The driver stepped back, shaking his head, unsure of how to proceed. Meanwhile, the beggar girl stayed rooted to her spot, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. Her expression was a mix of fear and determination, as though she knew the stakes were far higher than anyone there realized. The crowd began speculating in hushed tones. Is it something illegal? One man whispered, "Could it be dangerous?" A woman murmured. The tension was palpable, and even the police, who had just arrived, seemed hesitant to act too quickly. The officer in charge approached cautiously, speaking directly to the girl. "How did you know something was wrong?" he asked, his voice calm but probing. She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze darted between Melania and the trunk before she finally spoke. "I seen things," she said, her voice low. "I've been watching." Her cryptic words left everyone baffled, including Melania, who now felt an unexpected mix of unease and curiosity. What had the girl seen? And how was Melania herself connected to this strange unfolding mystery? The answers remained elusive. The officer motioned for the crowd to step back as another officer carefully removed the remaining bags from the trunk. Melania stood to the side, her composure cracking just slightly, her fingers nervously clutching her coat. The girl watched intently, her wide eyes betraying the weight of what she knew. Every second felt stretched, the growing silence amplifying the tension. When the last bag was pulled away, what lay beneath was enough to stop everyone cold. A small locked box sat in the corner, its surface scratched and worn, as if it had been hidden for years. The officer who reached for it hesitated, glancing back at Melania for approval. She gave a brief nod, her expression unreadable, but her hands trembling slightly now. As the officer picked it up, the girl took a step forward, her voice urgent. "Be careful. It's not just the box, it's what's inside." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. "Inside?" Melania echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in the box wasn't just dangerous. It was personal. The girl's gaze locked with hers. "You don't understand yet," she said softly. "But you will." The officer began to pry open the box, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The officer pried the box open slowly, every creak of the hinges drawing the crowd closer in anticipation. When the lid finally lifted, the contents weren't what anyone expected. Inside were papers, old, weathered, and covered in handwritten notes. Beneath them was a photograph, faded but clear enough to make Melania's breath hitch. It was a picture of her, much younger, standing next to a man she hadn't seen in years. Her hand instinctively went to her chest, as though the memory itself had struck her like a blow. "What is this?" she asked, her voice shaky but firm. She stepped closer, staring at the photo as the officer held it up. The girl's voice broke through the tension. "That's what they didn't want you to find," she said, her words laced with both fear and urgency. Melania turned to the girl, her expression a mix of confusion and disbelief. "How do you know about this? Who are you?" she demanded. But before the girl could answer, another sound cut through the night, a car engine revving nearby. The crowd turned as a sleek black SUV sped toward them, its headlights glaring like twin beacons. The officers moved to shield the scene, shouting orders, but the girl grabbed Melania's arm. "It's them," she said, her voice trembling. "They're coming to take it back." Everything was happening too quickly now, and the stakes had never felt higher. The SUV screeched to a halt just feet from the crowd. Its tinted windows reflected the chaos, but no one stepped out. The officers drew their weapons, shouting commands, but the girl gripped Melania's arm tighter. "We have to go," she said urgently. "They won't stop until they get it." Before Melania could respond, the driver's side door of the SUV opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. His face was calm, almost too calm, as he raised his hands to show he wasn't armed. "Mrs. Trump," he said smoothly, his voice carrying over the tense silence. "We're here to collect what belongs to us." Melania's heart raced. "Who are you?" she demanded, though deep down she already had an idea. The man smirked slightly. "Let's just say we're cleaning up old business. That box wasn't meant to resurface." The girl stepped forward, placing herself between Melania and the man. "She's not giving it to you," she said firmly. Her small frame seemed insignificant, but her courage was unshakable. The man tilted his head, amused. "And who exactly are you to decide that?" he asked. The girl hesitated, then said something that made everyone freeze. "I'm her daughter." The crowd gasped, but there was no time to process the revelation. The man reached for his pocket, but before he could act, the officers tackled him. The SUV peeled away, leaving behind a swirl of dust and unanswered questions. Melania turned to the girl, her mind reeling. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The girl nodded, tears in her eyes. "I've been waiting for you to remember." In the chaos, Melania clutched the photo from the box, now realizing it wasn't just a relic of her past. It was the key to a future she never imagined. The crowd slowly dispersed as the police secured the scene and led the man away in handcuffs. Melania stood still, her mind racing with questions, the photograph trembling in her hand. She looked at the girl again, trying to piece everything together. "Why now?" she asked softly. "Why did you wait so long to find me?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know how. I only had bits and pieces. This box, the photo, and the people watching you. They didn't want me to get close." Her voice cracked, but she pushed forward. "When I saw the car today, I knew it was my chance to warn you. I couldn't lose you again." Melania felt an ache in her chest, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. She placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "You're safe now," she said, her voice steady. "We'll figure this out together." As the officers handed the box back to her, Melania glanced down at the worn papers inside. They were full of secrets, clues to a life she never fully understood. But now she had something she hadn't expected. A second chance to uncover the truth and rebuild what had been lost.